Good morning. How are you today? Well, it's a gray day, maybe showers later, and it's in the 70s. It's almost chilly. You can't beat that. This morning here, we see a lot of the barn swallows practicing their flying. I mean, I'm serious, the young and the old, for their trip as we approach September to go to South America. But we'll talk about the environment in a few moments. I think that one of the indicators that our problems persist in terms of the insurrectionists is when a woman like Ashley Babbitt has become a martyr to the far right, led by he whose name we'd rather omit, Trump. And they have made her into a martyr as if she was murdered by the police and she was merely a tourist who broke into the Capitol. And if you remember, Barrett is the person who was like the first person who was going to come through these doors into the speaker's area, which is also not far from the House. And it may have been the last possible moment to push back on the crowd to protect the speaker and the members of the House who were not far away. And she was shot, and it turned out to be a wound that was fatal. Caught her in the neck, perhaps an artery. I haven't seen any autopsy, and she died. Now, the officers, you may have gathered from their appearance on the Hill, all four of them talked about using a weapon and not. And they decided they were so outnumbered that they'd end up shot by their own weapon. But the geography and logistics of where this occurred was very different, because the officer was in fact protected in a way by the breach that they were attempting. And now they want to know who the, quote, killer or murderer was. He has been cleared in an investigation. And I think even at this distance, we can say pretty safely that if he hadn't done that, who knows what might have happened to the Speaker or the members of the House. So was it necessary? Yes. In fact, there could have been more violence. And I think that you have to, in this circumstance, as compared to many others involving police, credit the restraint, even though they would have been taking a great risk for themselves. This comes at a time when we're also examining the Department of Justice conversations of Trump encouraging them, just say that the election was fraud and I'll take care of the rest myself. In terms of intent, I think this carries us a great deal to where we were. So where does the select committee in the House go? I'm going to do a podcast later today, and John McLaughlin and I are going to talk about it, two law enforcement types, I a prosecutor, and he in that broad blue line in enforcement. And we're going to talk about our reactions to the four witnesses and the aftermath. But one of the things we'll want to consider is what witnesses get called before that committee. And I think we've made a turn in our public discussion to the accounting question, meaning time for a reckoning, time for people to come forward. So like guys like No Jacket Jordan, like the Minority Leader McCarthy and more, should be summoned. And a good friend of mine, Stan Brand, who is somewhat of an ethics expert who served as Tip O'Neill's counsel in the House, has said there are precedents, he thinks, under the Rules Committee and the Ethics Committee to summon by subpoena a person to testify. So that'll probably be one of the legal questions that are soon tested. Now, let's turn to something that's both pleasing and not so pleasing. I'd call it the tomato in the field, which is a little bit like the canary in the mine. And it goes like this: in Southwest America, we have enormous drought problems. And many years ago, I'm such a fan of ketchup, perhaps because until I left home, I thought all meat was cooked black. And I once had a conversation with Senator Hines, and my friends were aghast that I would bring up their product. And as it was the family fortune, we engaged in quite an interesting conversation. Among them was, what kind of tomatoes you have and where you get them. Well, that's the problem. Out west, the water table is falling, and we have a drought. And the drier the earth, the more likely you dehydrate the soil. And that is a sufferance that is very real out west. And so the production of tomato crops has gone from something like, on one farmer's place, from 2,200 acres to 900 acres. And then also the production is being transferred to other goods. And so some may not plant tomatoes next year. Now, the significance of this is not just that you put a Heinz ketchup on your veggie burger or burger. It is that we are having problems with the supply of water. And this is a problem that is not going to go away as long as we're dealing with global warming. So this is not going to get better. This is going to get worse. And so initiatives in the Congress, initiatives on the lower level, initiatives international are what is necessary, because we're going to see we don't have the water for food, and that goes down the line to us. Because if we can't get water to grow the food, then we have food shortages. If we don't get water, which we need desperately individually, that's a real problem. If oil was the problem in the last century, water is going to be the problem in this century. And so, I don't know, there's no way to gild that lily, so to speak. That is one of the problems, the scorching earth in the West. In the East, we don't have that problem, but we certainly have it in the West, and they know it better than I do because they're living it. So, try to tune into our podcast today. I don't know what John and I are going to say, but I think we make a good pair, and so it should be interesting. In the meantime, I'm in my cathedral of trees, and so I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.